we said last week, remember, we mentioned the Nefesh HaChaim, Kol Yisrael Yeshem Chelek Le'olam Haba. Remember, not Ba'olam Haba, the mashal. We're building our own Olam Haba. It's not there, and we're just working towards what exists. We are Yeshem Chelek Le'olam Haba. We are have a chelik towards Olam Haba that we are in the process of building now. Right? That was very important. Yisod, we said. Now we started the Mishnah. Very important now. Erev Zaman Matan Torah Tevnu. Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. Tomorrow night, or next morning, right? Kabbalat Torah. Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai Msor Lishua Zekenim Uzekenim Neviim Masur Al Anshei Knesset Gedola Hem Amu Shosha Dvarim Havu Metunim Badim Ve'amidim Tamadim Arbeh Ve'asu Sayag LaTorah. Now last week we asked the questions why Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai and then Umsara Lishua. Say Hashem Masar Moshe, Moshe Masar Yoshua v'chulei v'chulei. Why Moshe Kibel and Yeshua Masra v'chulei v'chulei? So we explained, again I can't remember where I found ourselves. I was going to say this week, who said what? But I don't remember, but we'll say the Lashon Kabbalah is only to receive. You can only receive according to how, the size of it. You want to pour something in and accept something. So depending on how big the vessel is, that's how much you can take, right? But when you give over something, you can give over everything. Right? You can pour out everything. Everything can come out, right? So Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai because even Moshe Rabbeinu did not reach the Nun Shah of Chokhmah. He was Mekabel. He could Mekabel more than any human being that lived the face of the earth. But it was only Kibel, what Moshe Rabbeinu could Mekabel. But that Masal Yeshua, then Moshe gave everything over to Yeshua, and then Yeshua is the Kenim v'chulei v'chulei. Now, why we said also Misinai, you mentioned this last week, you said Me'achodesh Baruch Hu. Moshe Kibel Me'achodesh Baruch Hu. Who gave the Torah to us? Hashem. So we say, why Misinai? So we said, Misinai, this actually I can quote, is in the Tiferet Yisrael, who says, Misinai, we're supposed to learn from here, it says we learned from Sinai, got from Sinai to tell you that this is the Aleph Bet for Kabbalat Torah is humility. Like Har Sinai was the lowest, like Moshe Rabbeinu was the Anav, Moshe Rabbeinu was the Anav Mikol Adam, he was the right person to get the Torah, he was on the right place to get the Torah. Har Sinai, everything is symbolizing towards Anava. We say, just like Gemara Brachot says, just like Torah is compared to water, just like water goes from a high place and gravitates down, so too the Torah only gathers, as it were, the Yam Shel Talmud, if you will, right? The sea of the Talmud gathers in a low place. Sea level is low. Yeah, that's where it gathers. Yeah, in a low place, and that is very, very important. Now, I'm just adding myself. We know that it says in the Psukim before Achadat Torah and Parshat Bamidbar last week, it says V'yichan ha'am neged ha'ar, and the people encamped opposite the mountain. And the Mefarshim Chazal say, you should say V'yachanu. It said early in the same pasuk, one pasuk before, V'yachanu. They camped in the plural past. Yeah. Why third person past? Why does it say V'yichan? Ki'ish echad, belev echad. There was achdut.
Did it also use V'yachanu Yisrael?
There is. It says the pasuk. Yeah. But it says.
Because Yisrael can be this thing, right?
Yeah, no, it says V'yichen ha'am. It says V'yichen ha'am. Ha'am is referring to the people, it's plural. Right? Neged ha'ar. Ki ish echad belev echad. Yeah? So first of all, we mentioned that's the point of achdut. Achdut. To being together. Unity. As we say in the pasuk, right at the end of the Torah, V'yibishu ha'melech. V'yibishu ha'melech. V'tasef Rashi Am. Yachad Shiftei Yisrael. Right, Rashi says in the Parshat in Vazot Baracha, V'yibishu Melech, V'yibishu Melech, what did I say? V'yibishu Melech, Yachad Yisrael. That when is Hashem Melech in Yeshurun, in Klal Yisrael? When Yachad Yisrael, when they are together. Rashi says, when did the Shekhinah come? When there's Achdut. Because Hashem Echad, Ushmo Echad, and Hashem resides, His presence in a place of unity. And if there's pirud, if people are separated from each other, then there's no Hashrat HaShechina. And what was Ma'amad HaSinai was the greatest revelation of Hashem's presence residing in this world, right? Till Mashiach's going to come. The biggest Hashras HaShechina, you had to have Achdut. You had to have Yichud Nisan Neged Ha, and this is all my own ideas, which I hope are true. This is also included. This is also included in Anava, when it says Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai, which symbolizes Anava, right? A person who is humble doesn't get in fight to other people. No? Person who's a Baal Gaiva, everyone gets in his way, he's everything, Ani, me, I, myself, everything's me, everyone else, forget it, tramples on everyone, yells at everyone, tries to put everyone down because he's great. There's no unity with a Baal Gaiva, right? If a person's humble and he respects other people, he doesn't push over onto other people, so if everyone is in that state, you have Achdut, right? So that also it's the same idea. Yeah, Moshe Kibel Torah Misinai. Why not? We said not from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Misinai, to represent Anava, right? Which is one of the Aleph Bet for Kabbalat HaTorah. Now, we went through the Shtash of Dvarim, Yoshua, the Zekanim, Nevi'im, Anshe Knesset Gedolah. I forgot to mention last week the Gemara in Yuma, when it says why were they called the men of the great assembly? Yeah? Why are they called the men of the great assembly? Anshe Knesset HaGedolah, the great assembly. We said there were a few Nevi'im, Chag, Zachar, and Malachi, the end of Nevi'im were in the great assembly. So the Gemara in Yuma says, Moshe Rabbeinu said in Parsha Veit Chanan, Hakel, Hagadol, Hagibor, Vehanora, right? When you're referring to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which we say in the Shemona Esrei. And it says, Yirmiyah came, Daniel, Bar Yirmiyah, Daniel, Lo Amru, Gibor Vehanora. They didn't say Gibor Vehanora, they said, look at Klal Yisrael, where we see the Gvura of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where you see the Norah, where you see the awesomeness, the fear of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Look at the Jewish people, murdered, slaughtered, thrown out of Eretz Yisrael, Bet HaMikdash destroyed. Where's the Gvura of Hashem? Where's the Norah of Hashem? How can we say it? How can we say such a thing, right? Now, Hakel, Hagadol, they still said, right? Because Kel is Rachamim, Gadol is referring to Mitzvah Chesed of Hashem. There's still Chesed, there's still Rachamim of Hashem, but to see Hashem's Gvura, to see Hashem's, awesomeness, where is it in the Galut? Came the Anshe Chesed Gdolah, Ve'em Echzirim Kabat Chila. They said, Hen Gvuratav, Hen Noratav, right? That is Hashem's strength, that is Hashem's awesomeness. She'imalei heich umah kazu yecholai l'kayem b'fnei kam umot. You see Hashem's strength, that is Hashem's strength. We still see the fact we are one sheep surrounded by 70 wolves and we're still safe. That is only because of the greatness and the awesomeness of Hashem. We still can't wipe us out, however hard they try, and they still can't get us because of the Gvura of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? And therefore they were called Anshe Knesset Gedolah. That's how the Gemara Numa says, that's what the Rav says. Now, we had a few diukim, which we said, I just want to go through quickly, which is Chazarah from last week. It says, Hem amru shlosha dvarim, which we said over here, the Bartanura says they saw this as a kiyum of the Torah for the future generations, right? The end of the prophecy, and now this is Anshe Knesset Gedolah, time of the second Beit HaMikdash, they want to make sure kiyum of the Torah. They're referring to the Av Bedin, Sanhedrin, the Rosh Yeshivot, and what do they say? Hevu mitunim badin, you should be slow to judge. We said even in a din, they normally understand refers to dini mamonot, and even if you've seen the din before and you think you know it already, no, don't rush. Take it slow, be very careful. V'hemidu talmidim arbeh, and set up many talmidim. We said because machloket Beit Hillel, should you have lots of talmidim in the hope that as many come in, then at least some are going to have big talmidei chachamim going to come out, or you should be very picky and careful. And mention that was Hillel's thing. Hemidu tamidim arbeh. And the Tosfot Yom Tov says, why does it say v'hemidu tamidim arbeh v'lo limdu tamidim arbeh? What's it lashon v'hemidu tamidim arbeh? You should make them stand up, teach. That's what you need to do, right? So he says no, and I quote. He says, "Kloma lahamidam al raglehem bahavanat amitata shel Torah, shezeh amidat v'kayam." He says it means you want to put them up. It's referring to making sure they're standing upright. The emet, we said, stands up. Sheker en orglayim. Emet is something which stands firm. That they should be clear. You should teach them the Torah, the Amitah shel Torah. They should get the right pshat, the right understanding, the right halakha, and then they're standing, right? They're upright. The other perushim, which Ma'am Noez brings, etc., means also make them stand on their feet in a physical sense, that they are being supported and looked after in order they can learn. Like say, put someone on his feet, right? Put him on his feet. In a financial sense, also, it's also needed, right? They should be financially stable. You should make a sayag the Torah. This is all the dinei drabanan, all the fences around the dinim, right? We mentioned last week, riding a horse on Shabbat is mutar. Midrabanan, it's asur because he might break a branch off, which is asur min Torah, and hit the horse. And Rabbeinu Yonah explains that this is based on Yirat Shamayim. And that's why it says, Chaviv Divrei Sofrim Yenei Shel Torah, that in a certain aspect, the Divrei Sofrim are more Chaviv than the Torah itself, because the Divrei Sofrim show Yirah, that the Torah is real, right? We're worried, we don't want Chas v'Shalom to be over Din Doraita. So they made many siyagim, right? Many Din Drabanan around. And Rabbi Yonah goes as far as to say that if someone keeps mitzvot, that doesn't mean necessarily has Yirat Shamayim. That means that he really fears HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or he has Yirat Onesh, or Yirat Ramamut, and he's doing it because he knows that mitzvot are the emet, and to do avirot chas v'shalom is a terrible thing. Could be just he does what suits him, right? Wherever he goes, he's happy. He does mitzvot. He was brought up that way, so he goes with the flow. Yeah. However, says Rabbeinu Yonah, if he keeps the siyagim of the Torah, that proves that even when he's keeping the outshul mitzvot, it's all because of Yirat Shamayim. You understand? He's taking it seriously. Because when you keep the din drabanan, normally people say, oh, it's only drabanan. It's only drabanan, right? It's only drabanan, and that's not right. Opposite. Do you know what I mean? The keeping the rabbinical laws prove how serious you are about the Torah itself. You following me? Yeah? That's why it's so important. Now, we said the Rabbeinu Yonah even says in here and also in Shari Tshuva, Rotzeh Hashem et Yireav, we say in Pesukei Dezimra, right? Rotzeh Hashem et Yireav, Hashem wants to Yireim, because that's the Yesod Gadol of the Kiyum HaTorah, is the Yirat Shamayim. Now, this was basically Chazara with a bit of extras from last week. Now, we said at the end of last week's Shi'ur, that even though this seems to be referring to the Sanhedrin, right? The leaders of the generation, right? Be careful in Bet Din. The Rosh Yeshiva should have many Talmidim, yeah? Chazal should make sure the whole Torah for all the generations should be kept. However, says the Yachin, says Shvi Hashferber, it's also referring to an individual. It's referring to every single one of us. Every single one of us. How? So he explains, Hevu mitunim badin, you should be slow to judge. Similar to Hevidanit Kol Adam Lekaf Zuchut. Every individual in his daily life should be mitunim bedin. Mitunim, we said, was to be slow. Slow to judge other people, their actions, or to decide who they are. Oh, he's like this, he's that. Hevi mitunim badim. Don't jump to conclusions, yeah? Don't jump to conclusions. The Ma'am Loez brings down, I think it's Ma'am Loez, Hevi mitunim badim also means, let me check if it was Ma'am Loez, I want to say the right B'Shem Omro. Yeah. Having mitunim badim means also a person himself should be very careful in his daily life, his business. Be careful. Don't run into something and you might be over ribbits or take wrong measurements or this or that and everything else. Having mitunim badin, in the dinim, the halachot which apply to you in your business, go slow. Don't run into things, because you can make mistakes, right? You don't have to be an Av Beit Din over here. In your own personal life, when you're keeping the halachot, don't rush into things, right? Don't get something from the store and then bother looking at the extra properly. You're not even sure, I'm sure it's right. No, be slow, anything applying, be slow. That's number one. Number two, hemidu tamadim albeh. I'm not Rosh Yeshiva. I'm not a Nada B'Cheder, so what's they apply to me? First of all, when a person's married, he's got children. It's chinuch, his own children. And not only that, He says when a person, in his daily interaction with people, yeah, he can have many talmidim. If he's, with non-frum people, for example, in the office, or with, with frum people, you understand, whatever it is, you understand how he behaves, how he talks, yeah? He has influence on other people. And he can make many talmidim just by being who he is in his own life, right? You don't have to be a position, an educational position, right, of some institution. And every person has hemidim with talmidim a bit. His lashon is yeah. Right, he says, Gam muchiyav l'hadrich gam echem l'lechi b'darkei hatzedek. Yeah, to help other people go. His influence, he can be a positive influence, meaning actually, go and tell people, inform people what the right things are to do. He knows more than the other person, and he can help that person. You with me? So that is what is v'hemidu tamidim albeh. V'asu sayag l'Torah refers to himself. Yeah. Everyone knows, the pasuk says, lev marat nafsho, every person knows where his Yetzer Hara is stronger. So even though you've got the klal of the Dinei Drabanan, which everyone has to keep, the Even Shlema, the Vilna Gaon mentions this in his Sefer Even Shlema, that everyone has to have their own siyagim. If a person knows that he looks around too much and sees things he shouldn't see, so he has to make sure that he makes his own siyagim, right, when he's going out. Another person knows that when he's with people, his tongue is very loose. He just doesn't think, and he just ends up talking. Whenever he goes to people, he's in some sort of crowd, he always ends up saying about this one, talking about it, and he's always kicking himself, why did I have my big mouth again, etc. Yeah? So asur sayag Torah. So you have to think, speak to Rebbe, learn Sifrei Musar, think of ways to prevent yourself from coming to these things. There's no clear thing of it. Chazal said, everyone has to be careful, don't go in the crowd, don't speak to people late at night, this and that, because then you end up talking Lashon Hara. That's his particular thing, yeah? You understand? They gave general rules. The Chavetz Chaim in his Sefer Torah Bayit, believe it or not, as opposed to Shmirat HaLashon, he says in Lashon, if I remember it, Baal Peh, Shelo tiyeh adam hesech hadar be'et she'omed liftoach piv ledaber im anashim. I don't think it was an exact quote. He basically says, when we say in the pasuk, Nitzor leshoncha mera, right? David the Melech said in the pasuk, Nitzor leshoncha mera. Yeah? Or it says in the pasuk, Shomer piv ulshono, shoreh mitzarat nafsho. A person who guards his mouth and his tongue, he guards himself from tzarot. It says the Chavetz Chaim, what is he shomer piv? Nitzor leshoncha. He said it means like a shomer, like you have a guard, guarding something to make sure you have the guard on the army base, the guard and outside the factory, whatever it is, to make sure ganovim don't come in or terrorists don't come in. You're on guard and you have to be on guard. He's there, ready, on guard, watching what's going on. So too a person has to be with his mouth, with his tongue. He has to be on guard, right? And he says there, and one of the ways is, I'm just saying it's an example, Sayag, that before you open your mouth, stop and think. Get used to, you're about to say something, just stop, just for a second. What am I about to say, okay? You understand? Now, normally we don't, it's just, and it just comes out, right? We don't even think. So just think, try and train yourself to think. That's an example of the Siyag Torah. Anyway, now, the Ma'am Loez, as an example of a Sayag Torah, he says a very good thing is, make sure a person literally Sayag Torah to his Limud Torah. He should make a boundary for his learning of Torah, which means a kviut. He should have fixed times when he learns his Torah, right? Even if everything goes haywire, excuse me, in the day, he's got certain times which are fixed. And he brings a famous Moshel story that's already in the comic Sabah, wherever it is, yeah, about there was some famous, the whole country, nationwide, knew about him, a very famous tailor, made beautiful suits. All the princes and lords, and all from the king's palace used to come to him to make suits. And he had a minhag that in the morning he used to go and learn for an hour or two in the Bet Midrash, and no one could disturb him. And one morning came this big, huge, Lord, Tsar, I wanted to make a massive order, most expensive suits, huge, All day, was, make a big amount of money. And he said, where is he? His wife said, no, sorry. After you come back 2 hours, come back in 2 hours. He got a bit annoyed, he waited for 2 hours, said, what's going on? Where were you? He said, look, I was learning Torah, and it says, Chazal say, Ein ha-Torah mitkayemet, elem mi shememit atzmo alea. The Torah only will stay with someone who kills himself over it. And he says, therefore, for an hour or two a day, it's like he's dead. He doesn't exist. And the Tsar was very impressed, and then gave him the big order, and everyone lived happily ever after. Yeah? So the Ma'ala of the Kvita Torah, I mentioned this to my father, the Ben Ish Chai talks about, based on the Gemara in Benayahu, based on the Gemara in Brachot, Tafnun Aleph Mad Aleph, it says in a brighter Tanra Banan, asparagus, yafeh lelev, v'tov le'enayim, v'kol sheken le'bnei ma'ayim. Asparagus. So it doesn't mean asparagus what we think as in some vegetable. It's referring to a sort of alcoholic drink. And the Ben Ish Chai explains it was some wine based with, they used to soak different types of cabbages to soak up the wine, they put flavor into the wine, and Rashi says he used to drink it for refuah. Every morning on an empty stomach, that's what he used to do. And it's good for the heart, the eyes, etc., and the intestines. Says the Ben Ish Chai, it's meramez to Torah. Torah nimshada le'yayin. One of the drinks, we say is wine, milk, and water. Yain, the Torah is compared to wine, and we're saying over here, this is meramez to Torah. That he says when a person learns Torah in the morning, like they used to have this drink in the morning on an empty stomach, he learns Torah in the morning, and he's fixed in his limud Torah. Every morning he has this thing when he learns, before he goes to work, he has this thing when he fixed to learn, he goes to learn, he learns. He explained it's good for his mind, his lev, yafeh lev, it's praying to his mind, he'll understand he's learning better. Because once in the middle of the day, even if you have a share in the middle of the day, your mind's already busy with all the things you've got to do, you can't concentrate as well. 2, it's yafeh la'ayin, it's good la'ayin, which is the ein ha-seichel. You'll be able to get to the true pshat. You'll be able to get to, do you understand? You'll be able to get to the true pshat. You'll get 100% pshat, good true pshat. And kol sheken b'nei ma'ayim, your stomach, refers to parnasa. Why do you work? To put bread on the table, right? So if you do that, that will be a skula for you if you have good parnasa, if you have this kviyut. And then he says, this unbelievable thing, I said to Abba the other day, he says, it's all derech remez, right? He's learning this brighter derech remez. That's not the pshat. He goes so far to take another ma'amar chazal and learns it derech remez and says the following. He says, whoever learns makes his Torah kavua, ki'ilu lemad kol ha'olam kol hayom kulo. If you make your Torah learnings fixed, Hashem looks at it if you learn the whole day. Now, obviously, it can't mean as if like a person avreich or a person yeshiva who's learning the whole day. But it has a ma'ala, to a certain aspect, it has the mind of learning the whole day. Why? Because it says in Chazal, and first I preface, and we're going to have to finish because they're going to start Mariv soon. This they have to finish. I had lots more to say, but what can you do? Chazal saying in Gemara and Ketubot, right? If in Hilchot Sfekot, if you have 10 shops, 9 kosher shops, 1 treifon, you find a piece of meat unmarked in the street, you can go batar the rov. Kol the parish, miruba parish. If it wasn't in its where it's supposed to be, the meat's supposed to be in the shop, the store, it's on the street, you can assume it's separated from the rov. Rov of the shops are kosher, that's it. However, if it's b'makom kavua, in its fixed place, meat's supposed to be in the store, in the fridge, right, in the freezer, and it's in the store, and there was a mix-up in the deliveries, and there was a whole freezer in the kosher shop, and we're not sure if it came from the treif shop, it got delivered to the wrong place, it's unmarked, or it's kosher food. Then the halacha is kol kavua kamechsa amechsa dami. Whatever fixed, if the place, the root of the safek is in its fixed place, what's in the safek is a piece of meat, it's in its fixed place, we look at it as 50-50, and you have to go l'chumra, could be treif, right? Says the Ben Ish Chai, that b'api remez, that's what Chazal say, kol kavua kamechsa amechsa dami. Whoever's kavua in his learning, it's if it's half-half. Meaning, he's that's just like we assume that in this pshat, I spoke to one of my friends, that that's like, a person has to look after his physical needs. So he was half-half. He spent whatever time he needed looking after his physical needs, and the rest of the time, it's as if he was learning Torah. Yeah? They haven't started yet, right? So that's what he says. Kol kavua kamech samech sadami. Api remez, if you're kavua, as if you learn kol hayom kulo. Okay? Now, we'll just start the Where is it? Yeah, we'll just start the next Mishnah. We started the next Mishnah. Shimon HaTzadik haya misharei kahan sheknes Torah. If you see them starting, tell me. Yeah. Shimon HaTzadik haya misharei sheknes Torah. He was the Kohen Gadol after Ezra Sofer, and he said, "Al shlosha dvarim ha'olam omed, al Torah v'al avodah v'al gemilut chasadim." Says the Bar Tanura, it says the world was created for these three things: Torah, avodah, and gemilut chasadim. Now, how do you know avodah, Torah? It says, if not, yeah, inani diyoma, imale lo kiblu Yisrael et Torah, lo nivu shamayim va'aretz. The Gemara says, if it wasn't for the fact that we accepted the Torah in Har Sinai 3,000 odd years ago, tomorrow in the morning, yeah, lo nivu shamayim va'aretz, well, wouldn't be created. Why? It says, im lo briti yom ha'valayla chokot sham lo ha'aretz or something. If it wasn't for my briti yom ha'valayla, for the Torah, right? The Bnei Yisrael accepted, there is no point for the world. Bishvil, yeah? Well, let's start it. Alright, we have to stop there. It's Chag Sameach, we should be zocher lekabel Torah and to keep the world going.